The night is dim, covered with a faint transparent tulle, and the moonlight falls on the streets and lanes, and it happens to be able to see the roads on the ground. In a dead end in the southern district of N County, a dozen adult men in black are surrounding an 18-year-old boy. The young boy's mouth overflowed with blood, his body was blue and purple, and he was wearing a middle school uniform. He knelt on one knee, propped his right hand on the wall, and tried to stand up again with his legs trembling. Boom! A black-clothed man kicked the boy relentlessly on the chest, kicked him to the back wall, and the boy's body was heavily pressed against the wall and responded. A mouthful of blood squirted out of his mouth, and the young man's face became paler, his eyes began to loosen, and he still stubbornly tried to get up from the ground. Wang Hao, stay away from Lu Yan in the future, and you won't take a pee and take pictures of yourself. A group of black-clothed men leaned over to the two sides, squeezing a small road in the middle, and a young man in a white suit walked towards him. He was in a suit and leather shoes. He was about 1.75 meters tall. He stared at Wang Hao on the ground in disgust. His eyes wrinkled slightly, and he said sarcastically, "Bah!" Wang Hao's loose eyes condensed in an instant, staring sharply at the man in the white Versace suit, spitting out blood at him, and a mocking smile evoked at the corner of his mouth. He said with disdain, "Zhao Hui, you have this ability. Your grandfather Prince killed here. Take me to death, I will be responsible if something goes wrong." Zhao Hui looked at Wang Hao's blood splashing on his white leather shoes, could not help but burst into flames, and sneered. He wiped the blood-stained white leather shoes on Wang Hao on the ground and left the alley after confirming that he had restored his original brightness. He was not interested in staying and watching the scene. "You really don't know the heights of the sky, and even you Wang Hao are worthy of Lu Yan? In the entire N County, I am the only one who is handsome, young and golden, and with an extraordinary background. Zhao Hui is qualified to fall in love with Lu Yan." There was a high-profile roar from outside the alley. Zhao Hui had already driven his Lamborghini towards the Hadian Hotel. He could book a pair of sisters tonight, and there was no time to stay here to waste time. After Zhao Hui left, a group of black-clothed men returned to their true colors, showing fierce eyes, punching and kicking Wang Hao one after another, greeted all over the body vigorously. When Wang Hao's eyes were absent, he was lying down in a pool of blood and motionless, when the black-clothed men stopped, and one of them drew a soft red long mouth worth 20 yuan. He threw out smoke rings one by one, admiring his masterpieces full of accomplishments. "Boss, this kid won't die, right?" A thin black man in black asked the scar-faced man headed by him, his tone a little frightened. "Most of them often do things that break people's hands and feet, but they have never killed people." At this time, they gradually calmed down under the influence of cigarettes, and they felt scared. "Killing is a big deal. What are you afraid of? A group of boobs, even if something goes wrong, Hui Xiao will stand it up." Scarface patted the questioning man's head casually, and said with an indifferent expression, "The Zhao family in N County can be said to cover the sky with one hand. Even if the individual is dead, it is a big sesame matter. It will soon be suppressed, and it will not be able to set off the slightest storm. N County is a mixture of dragons and snakes, and there are many large and small forces in the disk, but the Zhao family has always been the Earth Emperor here." Hearing that the Zhao family was against it, the group of black-clothed thugs were relieved, and they got involved in the aspect of wine and color, no longer caring about the life and death of Wang Hao on the ground, and formed a group to head towards the Golden Nightclub. Zhao Hui had already taken care of their consumption in the Golden Nightclub tonight, which was one of the hard work. "Are you going to die?" Wang Hao looked at the distant figures of the black-clothed thugs, then struggled and turned his head, looking up at the picturesque night sky. Bright stars hang in the starry sky, immortal and immortal. He involuntarily looked at the brightest star in the night sky, dazzling more than the moon, surrounded by stars in the center as if worshipping the king. Shaking out his hand, Wang Hao didn't know why. At this moment, he just wanted to hold on to the emperor-like star. He didn't know the name of that star and had never seen it, but he attracted him inexplicably. Thousands of stars, I only take one is enough. Boom! A thunderstorm sounded out of thin air, the thunder resounded over 100 miles, and a large cloud of dark clouds covered the night sky and blocked the emperor-like star. Can't you even see the stars? God is really overbearing. Wang Hao's heart is bitter, and the way of heaven is unfair, and everyone's destiny is controlled by it in the palm of his hand. When he wanted to slowly close his eyes, a group of colorful rays of light propped up the dark clouds, and fell from the king-like star, like a divine rainbow that pierced the sky, shooting straight toward his location. In less than an instant, that group of colorful rays of light had already come to Wang Hao's side, circling around him like a lively elf, and before Wang Hao recovered, it instantly blended into the center of his eyebrows. The sacred warm power nourished his limbs and corpses, and his body was suspended strangely, 3 feet above the ground. What's the matter? It hurts. He watched this scene suspiciously. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com felt as painful as it was about to explode. He was completely occupied by something, but he couldn't pass unconsciously, so he could only passively accept the pain. Sweat dripped like rain, and there was a colorful light in his mind. The new wounds he had just been attacked were healing continuously without leaving any scars. But it hurts, the pain is unimaginable. Wang Hao clenched his teeth. When his wounds healed, he not only got a headache, but also suffered inhuman torture all over his body. The huge pain made his face suffocated, with blue veins bulging like small dragons, with the possibility of breaking out at any time. Sweat kept flowing down, and black dirt kept overflowing from him. The pain is like a wave, one wave never stops, another wave rises, endless. The old man shaved his bones and healed his injuries, but Wang Hao felt that the bones of his whole body had been taken out, and the blood in his body gushed out endlessly, and was filled with mild things. Ah! Wang Hao finally couldn't bear it, and let out a loud roar of pain to vent his torment. A stern roar spread throughout this area. After he roared out, the whole person began to bleed down, feeling the pain of his whole body and heart numbly, letting this mysterious power spread all over his body. Boom! The changes on his body stopped, and Wang Hao immediately fell from the suspended state. His whole body was filled with weakness as if he was hollowed out. He lay on the ground feebly, and there was a golden ancient book in the depths of his mind, which was engraved on it. 3 vigorous and powerful ancient characters that he didn't know, a group of colorful rays of light illuminated the entire sea of knowledge, and suddenly there was a violent mental fluctuation, and a huge amount of information was constantly instilled into Wang Hao's mind. His consciousness gradually blurred, and he finally passed out in a coma. There are dark clouds all over the world, and the sky is gloomy with light rain, full of heavy breath. A dazzling colorful light flashed on a certain sacred mountain in the west, and it disappeared after a short while. An ancient ruins in Europe glowed with light blue light, gradually turning into a little bit of starlight. Fortunately, there were no tourists at this time, otherwise they would definitely cry out for miracles. A shrine on Neon Island also changed. It was shrouded by a burst of gods descending from the sky, and then quickly disappeared. On this day, subtle changes have taken place in the places of interest in all parts of the world. It seems that something is about to come, but it hasn't appeared for a long time, except for thousands of miles of purple clouds floating on the eastern land. The Chinese people who witnessed all of this excitedly picked up the shooting tools, believing that this kind of natural landscape is really rare, and even the news of this 1,000 miles of purple clouds was broadcast on the news, triggering discussions from various experts. Wang Hao walked alone among the vast palaces, all kinds of Qianglu and Yu rose from the ground, and some magnificent pavilions were suspended in the sky, as if they had come to the heavenly palace in ancient legends. I don't know how long he has been walking, he finally stopped, and looked up at the imposing hall in front of him. There seemed to be no one in the broad and majestic hall. Wang Hao slowly climbed up the 99 steps of the stone staircase. There was really no one in the hall. In the center of the empty hall was a golden dragon chair. Wang Hao has heard many historical myths passed down from China since he was a child. The dragon chair symbolizes the 95-year-old supreme. Only the colored of the world can sit on it and receive worship from all directions. Sit down, shouldn't it be okay? He looked at the dragon chair and involuntarily walked over, seeming to be tempted by magic, and sat on it with a sense of anxiety. Boom! The moment he sat on the dragon chair, the sky completely exploded outside, and 9 true dragons condensed from thousands of miles of purple clouds, wandering like a real dragon for 9 days, worshipping in one direction, and lasted for 3 seconds. The magical dragon disappeared. Not only the Chinese people were shocked, but even some foreign media rushed to report that it was a rare natural fortune in thousands of years, and a few people thought it was a miracle. It's a pity that Wang Hao doesn't know all this. Even if he knows it, he doesn't think it is related to him. But after he sat on the dragon chair, he clearly understood one thing, something that seemed very illusory and ethereal, it could not even exist at all. There really existed gods in the world, and he became a god. It should be said that he has obtained a supreme divine position and has become a new generation of emperor. The name of the star I saw last night is Emperor Seeing, the brightest of the 5 stars in the North Pole, which represents the supreme divine position of the Emperor of Heaven. There seems to be no existence of him in the heavenly path, and the invisible chain that has always been called destiny has also been unlocked, truly transcending the mortal world. He feels that this world has changed and ushered in a new change. If he has to say it, it is the beginning of the age of gods. He can clearly sense the changes in various parts of the world. Some places are full of divine fluctuations, or they have already descended. Today's earth is not just a god. Wang Hao believes that it will not take long for the gods of various mythological systems to slowly descend, but now he has obtained the divine position in advance, still symbolizing the Lord of the 3 realms. Then you should plan carefully, because it will not be too simple in the future. A ray of sunlight shone on Wang Hao through the glass window, and he slowly opened his eyes. The snow-white career line came into view, which deeply shocked Wang Hao's eyes, and cried out his guilt secretly, and quickly turned his eyes to the ceiling, and then glanced with some curiosity. Black and smooth long hair fell vertically, smoky eyebrows frowned, it seemed that something unpleasant happened in his dream. Qiang's nose stood tall, bright red lips, and soft melon seed face, and the whole body exuded a seductive coquettish breath. This beautiful and picturesque woman is lying on the side of the bed, asleep, breathing rhythmically. Why are you here? Wang Hao fully awoke, and hurriedly opened the quilt. Although his movements were not great, he still woke up the sleeping woman. A pair of Qiushui eyes looked at him. Although Wang Hao didn't know what happened, it must be the woman who kindly brought herself back from the alley and said gratefully, "Thank you." "Yeah, it's okay," the woman said lazily, stood up and stretched her waist, her full round stand up, her figure is perfect, her beautiful curves are shown in front of him, she is 1.7 meters tall and her legs are slender, giving people a sense of lofty. "My name is Wang Hao, how about you?" He was really shy this time, turning his head and looking to the side, his cheeks flushed. This is the first time he has asked a woman's name since he was a child, let alone facing such a beautiful woman with all kinds of styles. She rubbed her eyes and slowly opened a pair of big watery eyes. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com seemed to be able to speak, looking at Wang Hao who turned his head, it made him afraid to look directly. "You can call me Yu Zhaojian." The beautiful woman spoke, her lips lightly opened, her voice was as cold as ice and snow. "Miss Yu, why am I here?" Wang Hao took a look at himself and his surroundings. The school uniform from number 1 middle school on his body was taken off long ago and replaced with a large white shirt. A faint fragrance came from the shirt, not last night's. Embarrassed. "I passed by there last night, heard someone screaming, and then rushed over to find you lying in a pool of blood with no wounds on your body, so I had to bring you back." Yu Zhao patted the magnificent chest before, and gently relieved. Shuang Feng trembled. Wang Hao really worried that they would jump out mischievously. There is one more thing Yu Zhao didn't say before. Wang Hao has a sacred aura that makes her feel at ease. She always wants to get close to him involuntarily and get close to him. That's why she took the strange boy back with confidence, and even let him wash in the bathroom for half an hour. After confirming that his body was clean, she closed her eyes and put a white shirt on him. "You should call me Sister Yu." After saying this, Yu Zhaoqian began to regret it, and a blush flashed across her pretty face. What happened to her today? Always want to get close to this boy. Wang Hao gave a slight sign, and inexplicably felt that something filled the missing corner of his heart. It was something he had always wanted but couldn't get. "You, sister." After uttering these words softly, Wang Hao finally understood what was warm in his heart, and that touch of warmth was exactly what he longed for. His parents left Wang Hao when he was 3 years old, leaving him alone with his elderly grandfather. Grandpa raised Wang Hao hard without knowing it, dragging his body full of old problems to pick up waste, and tirelessly doing cleaning work. His only wish is to hope that his grandson can become a talent. Wang Hao remembers that he often hid in tears at that time and hated his parents for leaving him and his grandfather behind. When he was no longer in tears, he was already in the first grade of elementary school, and he started to help his grandfather do some things within his power. When other children of the same age spent their childhood happily, he was busy with various chores and serious studies, for fear that he would hurt the old man's heart because of his disobedience. The old man also looked at his grandson very pleasedly, his eyes were full of kindness, and he often touched his head and took out a colorfully packaged candy from his pocket to give him. Although that period of time seemed very miserable to outsiders, it was still the happiest day for Wang Hao, because he was not alone in this world, and there was an old man in the family caring for him. When he was in the 6th grade of elementary school, he began to look for chores, earn some living expenses, and relieve his grandfather's burden. Days pass by, and the grandfather and grandson are still living happily and happily. When Wang Hao was admitted to N County No. 1 high school with the city's first result, the old man suddenly left. Went so suddenly, it caught people off guard. Wang Hao felt that the sky was falling down at that time, and he had not told the old man. "Tell him I did it. I did not live up to your expectations. So you get out of bed quickly, don't go on sleeping anymore." Father-in-law Sun shines on the bed. It is a pity that no matter how he shouted, the old man always closed his eyes tightly and fell asleep peacefully. Since that day, Wang Hao has been sealed off all his life. It seems that he has shed all the tears of his life. He has become indifferent and talkative. His heart seems to have stopped beating. The grades have also plummeted. I don't know how many people have fallen from the city's first throne, and even in the class, they have maintained a middle to lower level. Fortunately, I signed a contract with the school at the beginning, otherwise it would have been taken out by the class teacher and transferred to another class. I chose a position in the 3rd year of high school, and sat with Lai Huyan, the school girl, and became the same table. An unintentional sentence from the other side awakened him again, which made Wang Hao cheer up again, and the two gradually began to discuss some learning issues. Then Lu Yan's flower protector Zhao Hui came forward to warn him once. Wang Hao ignored it, and he was not afraid of the shadow leaning. Unexpectedly, the next night, he was surrounded by Zhao Hui. Thinking of this, Wang Hao became angry and his face became gloomy. One day, Zhao Hui would be punished. In the Hadian Hotel, Zhao Hui in the presidential suite was lying on the wide water bed, holding a charming woman on his left and right. Suddenly he felt a burst of urine and got up to go to the toilet. Boom! It may be because of too much work last night. When Zhao Hui got up, his limbs were soft, his head was dizzy, his steps were stumbling, his head slammed into the granite floor, a lot of blood flowed out, and he passed out. What? The loud noise awakened the two sleeping women. They got up and rubbed their eyes in a dazed manner. They found Zhao Hui lying in a pool of blood. He let out a sharp scream, and then he hurriedly found out his mobile phone and called the hospital. Phone. 10 minutes later, the ambulance came to the entrance of the Hadian Hotel. A team quickly opened the door of the presidential suite and carried Zhao Hui, who was in a coma, into the ambulance on a stretcher. Are you okay? Her face is so terrible. Yu Zhao looked at Wang Hao with a worried expression, her Zhu lips opened slightly, and she was interrupted by Wang Hao again. I'm fine, I just want to go to the toilet, sorry. After finishing speaking, he turned and walked towards the toilet. Wang Hao just wanted to be quiet now, because what happened last night was beyond his imagination, like looking at flowers in the fog. Hanging on the hanger in the bathroom was his school uniform yesterday. Wang Hao stretched out his hand and took it down. It felt completely dry to the touch. He took off his shirt and prepared to put on the school uniform again. Wang Hao felt that he had grown a lot taller. Originally, his height was about 1.75 meters. At this time, he had grown to at least 1.82 meters. His skin became as white and tender as a baby. The 8-pack abdominal muscles were well defined, and the muscles all over his body. It's not that exaggerated look, but it's like it has been designed by the golden ratio, there is no trace of flaws, and it is very pleasing to the eye. As soon as he turned around, he was immediately shocked by the self in the mirror. Wang Hao couldn't believe it was him. The changes are so great that even the facial features have a feeling of inexplicable inexplicability. In the past, Wang Hao's facial features were also beautiful and sunny. If it weren't for the death of his grandfather, it would have brought him an unimaginable blow. He had a tight face every day, and his whole body exuded a breath of strangeness. It would be possible to talk about it. Hazy first love. Now that the tight lines have been softened, the facial features seem to constitute an ethereal and refined face, which makes people incomprehensible. Sword eyebrows are like two blue dragons traveling in the sky. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Double pupils are as unfathomable as the vast universe, stars are constantly disillusioning and rising again, and there is a magical power that people can't help but fall into. Between his every move, he is full of aristocratic temperament, and looks as noble and elegant as a royal family who has studied aristocratic etiquette for many years, and is not out of style. Wang Hao usually doesn't pay much attention to his appearance, just keep his clothes clean. It's good now, the whole person is not touched with a trace of dust, and can be compared with the fairy who is not touched by the fireworks in the world. From a distance, I look like an immortal, and I look like an immortal king up close. Secretly lost his mind for a while, he found the reason for the changes. What happened last night was not a fantasy, but a real thing. The colorful light in the depths of the sea of knowledge told him that all of them were real things. The characters in myths and legends may have existed in this land. The legends of moving mountains to fill the sea, bending bows, and shooting the sun are not all imaginary. And other regions may also have the same existence as him, and even the characters in the myth have descended to the mortal world. After quietly calming down in the bathroom for a while, Wang Hao packed up his clothes and walked out. The outside scene suddenly brightened his eyes, and he was greeted by the hot figure Yu Zhao in a small black suit. Professional black suit wraps her wonderful curves out, inside is a small white shirt, her chest is bulging, as if it will burst the buttons. Fox May's face is white and beautiful, her skin is snowy, her thighs are slender and straight. At this time, she is wearing a pair of black lacer-rim stockings. She has lifted the stockings over her knees. The snow-white thighs and the black stockings have formed a strong impact. During the time he entered the toilet, Tamazu Qian was upright indoors and changed his clothes. Where did Wang Hao have seen such a fragrant scene? When the roots of his ears were red, he resisted the urge of a nosebleed, restrained the restlessness of his lower abdomen, turned around hurriedly, hit the wall with a bang, and habitually squatted down and rubbed his forehead. His actions caused a burst of laughter like silver bells, Wang Hao's heart was miserable. How could you be so bold? Why don't you worry about changing clothes here? Anyway, I'm also a tough man, so I'm not afraid of accidents. Thought so in my heart, but Wang Hao absolutely didn't dare to say it, otherwise I would not be able to clean up if I jumped into the Yellow River, and I didn't see anything. It's okay. Yu Zhao, who was changing his clothes, cared about Wang Hao, who was squatting on the wall with his head, and quickly put on the stockings. Fortunately, this kid just saw that he was wearing silk stockings, otherwise he would let him know what the consequences would be before he provokes Yu Zhao. It's okay, but I was shocked by Jade's sister. Although there was still some blood surging, Wang Hao still said calmly, but the tone of his speech was full of trembling voices, which made Yu Zhao behind him aroused. A sly smile. A smile overwhelms the country and the city, with the peerless elegance that makes the king abandon the country and replace it with a beautiful smile. Unfortunately, this scene has not been seen by anyone. Do you think my legs look good? Yu Zhaoqin said coquettishly, with a seductive voice. If someone who knew her was on the scene, he would be surprised. Although Tamazu has always been a black long Nayu sister, the name of this flower is rose. Although the red rose is beautiful, the person who can pick it will definitely be stabbed. This woman who has harmed the country and the people looks coquettish and slutty, but she is actually a very conservative person. A large group of people confessed their love to her without concealment, but she did not say anything to anyone. In this way, it makes people even more obsessed. The appearance is like a passionate red rose, but the heart is a snow lotus on the body of snow saint, which can be viewed from a distance and cannot be profaned. It looks good, it's not only slender and straight, but also very white. Wang Hao replied subconsciously. When he noticed something was wrong, he immediately felt a soft object coming from his back. He immediately changed his mouth in panic. It's not good. Good looking. The storm is coming more violently, Hyun can only fly continuously and accept the blow of the storm. After a while, Wang Hao took the initiative to admit his mistakes and prevented the war from expanding further. The big man can bend and stretch, this is indeed the first thing that he is wrong. I made breakfast, don't mind if you eat it before leaving. Yu Zhao looked at Wang Hao, who was embarrassed. He didn't expect to have such a cute side. It was really interesting. Sunny and delicate all met the requirements, and his facial features looked a little handsome. Shueida Zhengtai looks like this, it seems that this is also good. Thinking of this, she suddenly smiled, her eyebrows slightly raised, her eyes like a crescent moon. Then I'm welcome. Wang Hao was slightly lost by this sudden smile. He had never thought that there was a woman with such a beautiful smile in the world. It wasn't his idiot, but the smile in front of Yu Zhao was really impossible. Resist. And this is the first time that a girl cooks for him, and the other party is still such a woman who has harmed the country and the people. Wang Hao has already begun to look forward to what kind of breakfast will be. After experiencing so much last night, my stomach is also protesting. With a hint of expectation in his heart that he didn't know, stood up from the ground with a smile. His eyes are very clean, like a pool of clear and secluded water, but he possesses a strange magical power, and he may inhale himself at any time. His gaze was so pure that Yu Zhaoqian didn't dare to look straight, so the sunshine smile was too foul. Yu Zhaoqian turned his head faintly, turned and pushed open the bedroom door. Wang Hao followed, sweeping the 2 buckets of instant noodles on the dinner table, and gave a wry smile. What are you looking forward to? But this is also good. Pulled a chair and sat down, looked around in the living room. All kinds of clothes were randomly placed. Bags of black plastic bags of garbage were piled in the corner. It is hard to imagine such a beautiful woman. The self-care ability is like this. Where is Jade's sister from? He glanced at the instant noodles with the seafood logo, took the fork from the instant noodle bucket, and Wang Hao asked casually. Guess. Yu Zhaoqian said mischievously, smiling faintly. Wang Hao didn't try to guess, there was still a sunny smile on his face. He didn't expect Yuzeo to have such a childish side in front of him. The extra sardines in the instant noodles attracted his attention. He picked up the plastic fork in a graceful manner, directly picked up the fish noodles, and started slowly. His non-answer made Yuzeo-kin very dissatisfied. He picked up the fork with a puffed face, and vented viciously at the instant noodles in the bucket. A bucket of instant noodles was eaten very quickly. Wang Hao thanked Yuzeo-kin for the hospitality, cleared all the garbage in the corner, and took them all downstairs together. There is a kind of closed feeling deep in my heart, which is not enough for the warmth of the outsider. Yuzeo looked at the figure of Wang Hao leaving. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com suddenly became a little bit reluctant, obviously not in line with the setting of Zhengtai. However, other requirements barely pass, yet to be examined. Yuzeo squinted slightly before licking her bright red lips meaningfully. After walking out of the apartment, Wang Hao headed east, accidentally embarking on the road he didn't want to pass. He used to walk this road often, and the high-rise buildings outside surprised him. If it hadn't been for the rough dim sum shop at the turning corner, Wang Hao would really suspect that he had gone the wrong way. Most of the original streets are old-fashioned buildings. Many shops Wang Hao have gone to help. People in this shopping street basically know him. When I came here last month, there was no change from what I saw before. Now many high-rise buildings have been erected, replaced by nearly 1/2 of the number of shops, and many of the facades have been renovated. In just 1 month, how could such a drastic change happen? Something must have gone wrong. Wang Hao frowned, and walked quickly towards the coarse snack shop not far away a little nervously. The shop is not big, only 100 square meters. An old woman with grey hair squinted her eyes and lay leisurely on a rocking chair. After seeing the old woman, Wang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. She is the only one guarding the entire shop. 4 tall containers are filled with various kinds of crude snacks. For the convenience of the children after school, a few large low tables are set up, and the various crudes are sorted in order. Dessert. The moment stepped into the shop, the long-lost warmth came to Wang Hao's heart. The half-squinted old woman saw Wang Hao coming in. She immediately got up from the rocking chair with a kind expression on her face. "My child, you are here, and my mother-in-law thought I could not see you anymore." The old woman tremblingly stretched out her skinny hand, but found that she couldn't touch Wang Hao's head. She put her hand down with some regret. "Sorry, Granny Zhang." Since his grandfather passed away, Wang Hao has rarely visited this shopping street, because he and his grandfather have been here many times before, so every time he passes by, he will inevitably touch the scene, and the crack in his heart will become deeper. "I just want to escape from reality." Granny Zhang's family, apart from his wife's departure earlier, her 2 sons and daughters also got married and formed a happy family. They both came here to take her away, but Granny Zhang still chose to stay here. Although Wang Hao didn't understand the reason, this place must be an important place for the old woman, with precious memories that are irreplaceable, so she was reluctant to leave. Had a conversation with Granny Zhang, and Wang Hao accidentally touched on other questions. After getting the answer, he was more sure of his guess that this world has changed, but people in this world seem to still remember his existence. Cleaned up the store's hygiene for Granny Zhang, and after helping to cook a lunch, Wang Hao was about to leave. However, Granny Zhang insisted on pulling his sleeves and had to eat the meal before leaving. Wang Hao was not hypocritical, and indeed the instant noodles he ate at Yuzeo's house were not enough to fill his stomach. Is it all because of it? Walking on the bustling street, looking at the world different from the past, the only reason Wang Hao can think of is the colorful spirit in his mind. When he was talking with Granny Zhang, the other party inadvertently mentioned that Wang Hao had entered Sanozaki Academy with the top score in Tokyo. A stormy sea was immediately set off in his heart, and some other questions were raised. It is certain that this world is not the original world. In other words, because of the colorful godhead, I took myself to another parallel world, a mythical age that allowed the descending of gods. If I saw a good time at Granny Zhang's crude snack shop, today is April 1, 2010, and tomorrow I will report to the so-called Chenqi Academy. Since this is a parallel world, is Grandpa still there? This thought flashed through Wang Hao's heart, and he ran madly to the home in his memory. Who, panting and rushing to an ancient courtyard, Wang Hao gently opened the door with a glimmer of expectation in his heart. Everything in the yard is still the same as the place where it was in the previous life. The layout is very stylish, and it occupies a large piece of land in this golden city. This yard is handed down from the ancestors. After hundreds of years of wind and rain, even in the most difficult time of life, my grandfather never mentioned his intention to sell it. The old man told him since he was a child that he cannot be short-lived and that he should not lose the bottom line of being a human being, and that he should inherit the fine traditions of his ancestors. Grandpa! Are you at home? After Wang Hao entered the door, his eyes were red, and he shouted aloud. There was no echo from the old man. Reality once again broke his illusion. He didn't believe it, and frantically searched the yard. There is no old man in the study, no bedroom, no backyard. He has carefully searched all the places he can find, and he still doesn't see the old man. The last hope is completely disillusioned. What the am I expecting? That's silly. Lying in the bedroom with eyes absent, Wang Hao stared at the ceiling blankly, a drop of crystal tears streaming down without noticing it. The family relationship is really ridiculous, it can't stand the wind and rain. Why are they all agreed, and they have to leave without saying anything? The emotions that had been suppressed for 3 years suddenly broke out, and the whole room was filled with his sorrowful and desolate roar. The world gave people hope, but he did not hesitate to come with despair. After looking at the ceiling quietly for an hour, no one knew what he was thinking, but Wang Hao's Wuxian pupils gradually recovered. In the previous life, he was able to obtain the highest godhood and rebirth himself in this world. You can't just live so baldly. That would be too extravagant. There were many books stacked in the bookcases and corners of the room. He took a deep breath, got up and picked up a history book and started to read it. The most urgent task is to understand the difference in this world, to see how it is different from the original Earth, and what kind of history has happened. It didn't take long to open the book and read a few pages before Wang Hao discovered a different place. The history before the Tang dynasty was no different from the original Earth, but everything changed after the Tang Taizong Li Shimin began. Not long after Emperor Taizong ascended the throne, a strange scene of pilgrimage to the Kowloon appeared in the sky. Since then, Li Shimin sincerely possesses the dragon soul, reforming the system of the Tang Empire at that time to a staggering level, and generously co-developing military forces with other countries' technology. Unexpectedly, the concerted efforts of various countries to study military technology unexpectedly led to the advent of the era of thermal weapons ahead of schedule. This made other countries think that they had military power comparable to Datang, and began to breed ambitions and wanted to annex Datang. No way! At that time, the Tang dynasty was so rich and possessed many things that made people eye-catching. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com can be said to have come from all nations. No country would dare to come and make offerings. I don't know how many rare treasures there are. The foreign treasure is in the Datang treasury. And the existence of Datang is really terrifying, like a lion in a herd of rabbits, it can easily prey on rabbits at will. After the countries went back, a full 30 countries united to form a Western alliance, and then they found a grand cause and led the navy to invade Datang. Emperor Taizong was quite calm. When the enemy arrived, thousands of unheard-of ultra-long-range cannons were fired, completely making the Western alliance honest. From then on, the Datang Empire deservedly became the hegemon of the world, and the Chinese nation made all the nations fearless, and no one would dare to commit a crime within 1,000 years. It is a pity that no matter how large and glorious the empire is, there will be a day of decay. The glorious Tang no longer exists. After many battles, China has formed the current celestial dynasty. Although the Heavenly Dynasty is still the hegemon of the world today, the territory is less than a quarter of that of the Tang Dynasty, and it is not as breathless as before. According to the analysis of the situation in the history books, the two countries with the strongest national power today, one is the United States, and the other is the Celestial Dynasty. The strength of the Celestial Dynasty faintly overwhelms the United States. In recent years, the U.S. military seems to have improved again, and there is no difference between the two. Putting down the thick history book in his hand, Wang Hao knew that he was definitely going through, and rubbed his head in annoyance. Although there was nothing to be attached to in his previous life, his hatred had not yet been reported, so he was really unwilling. After a while, Wang Hao gave a wry smile, his face regained a sunny smile, and said coolly, "Forget it. Forget everything about the previous life and start over." He knows that if his grandfather is still there, he definitely doesn't want to see himself go bald and degenerate. What doesn't seem to be right? Careful Wang Hao found that the two-dimensional objects and other novels in his room were gone. In the previous life, his grandfather's departure was a big blow to him. In order to fill up the emptiness in his heart, Wang Hao spent most of his working money to buy two-dimensional related items, and he was immersed in the world of the two-dimensional. He is a Chinese otaku. Nowadays, there are not many things related to the second dimension in his room, at most there are only a few dolls that decorate the room, and there are not even a few novels. He suddenly became a little curious, how did he spend this world? Shook his head, Wang Hao has no intention of thinking about this now. He still thinks about how to deal with the classmates of the college tomorrow. First of all, it is certain that tomorrow's school opening ceremony must not wear the school uniform of this previous life. He opened the closet on the side, and a black suit was neatly stacked inside, which was very college-style suit. There was a pair of lattices under the closet. The shoes should be matched with the suit. Don't know what grade you are in now. Wang Hao sighed with a headache for this problem that ordinary elementary school students knew. For the first time, he felt that the seven-colored godhead was unreliable. If he traveled to another parallel world, he didn't even have the memory of his original master. Fumble on your own. Although he had attained the supreme godhead, he did not feel the power of God for any reason, that is, his body was a bit more agile than before, his power seemed to be stronger, and a faint qi swimming in his body, moisturizing his limbs. Other than that, there are no special abilities, not to mention the legendary ability to turn stones into gold and turn decay into magic. Then he discovered another fatal problem. Not only is he weak, he doesn't seem to have a subordinate to send, a typical polished commander. According to his own habits, there must be a diary left. Wang Hao can be sure that he has the habit of writing a diary since he was a child, and believes that he in this world will also have it. Pulled out the drawer under the desk, and pulled out the wooden board outside the drawer with his hands. Two notebooks appeared in front of him, one of which was a little damaged on the outside, and the other was brand new. Looking at the contents of the old book, Wang Hao already knows what he has probably experienced, and it seems that no matter where he goes, he has not changed. Gently opened the brand new book, the content recorded in it was only a short sentence. Tomorrow I will be promoted to the first year of Santa Key Academy High School, but I will let you know that I am no worse than anyone. Wang Hao gently closed the diaries and put them back in their original positions. I will inherit your wishes for you. Tokyo is not in the sky, but the island country in the previous life, which is the neon of this world. In the history of this world, Neon didn't dare to go to war with the heavens at all, and has always adopted a friendly policy with the heavens. Even if the Celestial Dynasty had experienced many battles, when the vitality was severely injured, Neon did not dare to invade. After all, a lean camel was bigger than a horse. Speaking of it, Wang Hao's family was once quite extraordinary. It was appointed by the Tang Dynasty to garrison Neon. At that time, it was considered a high position in Neon. Unfortunately, with the demise of the Tang Empire, the Wang family gradually fell into decline. This ancestral house was made by a royal family 100 years ago, but after all, it went bankrupt, and only this house was left. The noble son of a fallen family? Wang Hao smiled lightly. It seems that this setting is also good, very in line with the anime male protagonist he has seen in his previous life. He turned on the computer in the room again and began to search for more information. It was not enough to rely on that. Walking on the flat concrete road, Wang Hao wore the uniform of the Paladin Academy, and proceeded according to the information searched on the computer last night. The streets were staggered, making him take a lot of wrong paths. Leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning, I glanced at the watch on my wrist. It was already 6:30, and there were 30 minutes left until the opening ceremony at 7 o'clock. Wang Hao pulled the tie around his neck and took a deep breath. With a sigh of relief, one-handed pole hurdles can't be late on the first day of school. Danger! Wang Hao, who had just crossed the hurdle, narrowed his eyes and exclaimed. In the distance, a girl with long hair and waist-length wearing a black short skirt turned around to the red-lighted road for some reason, a large truck. Already coming in from a distance, the driver's warning sound seemed unheard of to her. Wang Hao's voice just came out, his body was like a bullet fired, his tight muscles exploded at an unimaginable limit speed, and the breath of physical strength was aroused and turned into a stream of light to rush away. Boom! He hugged the black long straight girl. Wang Hao slammed into the guardrail on the side and made a loud noise. The truck driver also slammed to a halt, opened the window of the car and cursed fiercely, "Walking long is not long. Eyes? I don't want to live anymore." Let the truck driver curse for a while. Yu read the book www.yuyugonshu.com and found that the other party was not talking, and drove away angrily. After a while, the girl in her arms recovered and finally knew what had happened. She raised her head and looked at him nervously, and said, "Sorry, are you okay?" "It's all my fault." Wang Hao could see the face of the girl in his arms clearly, with a melancholy look in his eyes, a face full of intellectual melon seeds. A pair of big eyes are very charming, slender body, slender legs, upper body is a women's college suit, wearing a tied white shirt, a black short skirt underneath, and black stockings wrapped around his legs, exuding the elegance of a literary girl. Xia no Hokashiba. Wang Hao immediately thought of her name in his heart, and saw her worried look on her face, who was always known for her poisonous tongue and belly. She endured the pain behind her back and pulled open the corners of her mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp white teeth, and the sun shone on Wang Hao's smiling face. Let her be slightly lost. "I'm fine, this is a very important thing to you, right?" Just as Tamamo had thought before, this kind of sunny smile is too foul, it makes people irresistible. His hands clenched into a fist opened, and he just picked up a small object from the ground. It was a pocket watch of a few years old. His appearance did not make Zayas Hikihoshiu immediately excited, but hugged Wang Hao tightly. "Head," whispered in his ear, "thank you, this is the hero's reward for saving the United States." A touch of soft touch made Wang Hao flushed with shame, and struggling to put down Zayas Hikihoshiu, turned his head and said, "It's okay, are you also a student of Shenki Academy?" Just now, in his pupils, the mark on the chest of the girl's clothes was enlarged, which is exactly the same as the mark on his suit. It stands to reason that Kazumajaya Kashiwa didn't seem to be studying at Shenzaki Academy. "My name is Wang Hao, a first-year student in the advanced department of Shenzaki Academy." The more he looked at it, the more he felt that the girl in front of him was Shia Kazumajaya. Both her appearance and temperament were exactly the same. The girl sitting on the ground crossed her legs, and the black silk in the miniskirt formed an absolute field. She stretched out her white and tender hand to Wang Hao, meaning to pull herself up quickly. Wang Hao was slightly startled, and subconsciously stretched out his hand. He gently grasped his soft little hand and pulled Xia's Hikihoshiu up from the ground, only to notice that this seemed to be the first time he was single in many years, holding a girl hand. "I thought you were a herbivore, but I didn't expect." Xiaohai Hashida looked at Wang Hao disappointedly, took out a tissue from where she wiped her hands, and threw it to the trash can. The black-bellied Xiu Zai's Haiqiu came back again. Although he knew the opponent's attributes a long time ago, such seemingly inadvertent actions still caused Wang Hao to suffer a lot of damage. Isn't just holding hands? Do you want to be so disgusted? It's the first time you paid me back. For your hero's sake of saving the United States, let me tell you that it is difficult. My name is Zai's Haiqiu. Remember Hajun Zai's Haiqiu walked behind Wang Hao, blew a sigh in his ear, and whispered. The guess in his heart was confirmed. He didn't know why, he suddenly felt very happy, and even the last bit of hatred for Zhao Hui disappeared. It is precisely because of this that he can descend into this two-dimensional world. Nice to meet you. At this moment, Wang Hao completely abandoned the burden in his heart, and once again reached out to Zai's Haiqiu. Do you want to hold my hand like that? It seems that besides being a carnivorous type, you are still abnormal? Hajun Zai's Haiqiu did not shook hands with Wang Hao, with a smile on his face, and continued, Hajun won't go to the opening ceremony? But he will be late. Who do you think is to blame? The time on the watch has reached 6:50, which means that the opening ceremony is about to begin in 10 minutes. Who on earth is it? Zai's Haiqiu asked innocently, his red pupils were full of curiosity, his head tilted slightly, and her waist-length black hair fell down. No time to explain, let's go to school together. Wang Hao took up Kazhijiakashiu's hand and started to run towards Shenqi Academy. The opening ceremony of the new students was in the indoor basketball court of the academy. Wang Hao took Zai's Haiqiu all the way with sparks and lightning, and finally arrived at his destination before 7 o'clock. Monster pervert, really unexpectedly bold. Zai's Haiqiu lightly opened Wang Hao's hand, and moved a few steps away from him, turned and pushed open the closed door, and walked in step by step. Wang Hao followed in the footsteps of Zai's Haiqiu, and found a freshman team to join in. Many freshmen who were familiar or unfamiliar in the student team started talking and laughing. The content was mostly about love. Topics like that. He searched for Zai's Haiqiu in the crowd. He looked around for a week, but he didn't find the other person here. Where did Xiaoshaiza go? Hello, my name is Anulun, so I can call me Lun. First-year students, please give me more advice. Anulun, who wore black-rimmed glasses, black hair and black pupils, and a black college uniform, exuded a faint atmosphere of a house, and a smile on his face also greeted Wang Hao. Hello, Wang Hao, I am also a first-year student. Just call me Hao. Please advise. I thought Hajun was an indifferent big guy and wouldn't pay attention to someone like me. Anulun was also slightly startled, and then said half-jokingly and half-seriously. Indeed, with Wang Hao's current appearance and temperament, standing among a group of high school students is extraordinarily aristocratic. Every move is very aristocratic, as if he was born. Many students around him are talking about him, and many girls think of him. A little more star. Really? It's not bad for a Nujun to take off his glasses. I'll forget it. Does Hajun have a girlfriend? Many girls who secretly followed here calmed down and inadvertently approached in the direction where Wang Hao was. No, there should be no girl who will fall in love with me. Wang Hao said somewhat self-deprecatingly, in the last life, any girl would like him who was cold and almost like a block of ice. Is that so? But Hajun is really handsome. I think my childhood sweetheart will love you. If you don't mind, I can introduce you to him. Although he is a bit bad-tempered, he is just a man. A kind-hearted child. Isn't your childhood sweetheart Ying Lily? And how did you start a pimping business? Wang Hao looked at the talkative Anulun with dumbfounding. He did not fit the setting of Azimune and not good at talking with outsiders. He talked about this kind of topic to him, a stranger he met for the first time, and betrayed him decisively. Childhood sweetheart. But it is precisely because of this frank character, Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com is no scheming, sincerely treating friends, it will be favored by girls unknowingly. It's also a good thing to be friends with such a person, Wang Hao thought in his heart, with a sunny smile, and said, "You are the one, Lun, pay more attention to the girls around you." "Is that so? How?" And Yulun also heard Wang Hao's address to him, and under the sunny smile of the other party, silently removed the word Jun and looked at Wang Hao moved. Neon's Azai is alienated from other people regardless of whether it is male or female. Because of the otaku, and Yulun also has few friends in Guo. After entering the first year of Shenki Academy, the first thing is to start again. Make new friends here. And Yulun also seemed to want to say something. At this time, the principal had already taken the stage to announce the opening ceremony. He had to let go of what he wanted to say. All the students in the audience quieted down. No one else's voice was heard from the venue of the university. The principal gave a passionate speech on the high platform. Talked about a lot of the history and culture of Shenzaki Academy, development history, honors and awards, etc. All other students heard, their ears have cocoons, but Wang Hao listened intently, sucking water like a sponge. The principal gave a passionate speech for more than 10 minutes, and finally explained all the information about Shenzaki Academy. Wang Hao silently remembered it and learned more about the academy. Suddenly there was a commotion among the students off the stage. Wang Hao looked up. The principal had stepped down for some unknown time. Standing on the stage was a representative of a freshman. The black hair fell vertically, the red pupils were full of intellectual beauty, the thighs were slender and straight, and he was wearing a pair of black stockings. The magnificent propped up the uniform, and the whole person revealed the breath of a literary girl like a big and not a shiko. "Shizi, why did you get to the podium? Spring is blooming, in this cherry blossom season, we..." As soon as the new student representative Zayas Hikihoshiu came onto the stage, her whole body was full of another temperament. She no longer laughed with Wang Hao when she first met, but when she became serious, she was as elegant as a lady. "Kashoma Jayaka is really amazing." An Yulun next to Wang Hao also looked at Zayas Hikihoshiu, who was talking on the stage, very admired. "I knew this man in the middle of high school. He has always held the top position of the school year. He is still a great beauty. There are many supporters in the academy. What is different from his Azai is that no matter how he goes, it is very dazzling everywhere. Lun also likes Kasuga no Oka." "No. No. How is this possible?" And Yulun was also like a cat whose tail was stepped on, and immediately exploded. For himself who likes the second dimension, the three-dimensional beauty may be of little interest to him. The two talked happily, and gradually became happy and gradually became friends. The opening ceremony soon ended. Wang Hao, and Yulun, and Xiao's Hikihoshiu were all assigned to Class A of the first grade. The classification system of Shenzaki Academy is not divided by grades, but a system of random allocation. I have to sigh the magic of fate. There were more than 30 people in the class. A small lottery box was placed on the podium. There were many folded papers inside. When the people in front of the team finished drawing the lottery, Wang Hao also reached out and took out a little paper. Article. On the 30th, in the second to last row by the window, Wang Hao silently walked over and sat in his seat. It didn't take long for Wang Hao to be surprised that An Yulun was also sitting in front of him, while Xiao's Hikihoshiu was on his left, and the two were at the same table. "Kashoma Jayaka, meet again." Wang Hao smiled and looked at Zayas Hikihoshiu, who was at the same table. The fate was indeed wonderful. "Yes, I didn't expect to sit next to the perverted gentleman, what should I do?" Zayas Hikihoshiu jokingly said, tilting up her slender legs in black silk, resting her cheeks in her hands, and staring straight at Wang Hao, with a troubled expression on her face. "What is my image in your heart? It seems that I just saved you this morning, okay? Also, girl, you are gone." Wang Hao cast his eyes down, and he inadvertently saw the blue and white striped panties, and quickly looked away without changing his face. So, Miss Xiao's Haiqiu, can you remove the title of perverted king? Really? The one who clearly peeked at the other's house just now, the perverted gentleman is really thick-skinned, the perverted in order to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. Wang Hao looked at the world outside the window. It is really beautiful here. Seinozaki College not only covers a large area, but the campus environment is also quite beautiful. Several artificial lakes are scattered on the campus, and many flower beds of various colors are arranged in an orderly manner. Several cherry trees beside the windows block a large area of sunlight. This month is the season of cherry blossoms in full bloom. A gentle breeze blows gently, and a few cherry blossom petals float in front of Wang Hao. The speed at which the cherry blossoms fall is 5 centimeters per second. Jingle bell! A rapid ringing broke the bustle of the classroom. The classmates quickly returned to their positions. There was a rhythmic sound of footsteps in the corridor, and everyone looked expectantly at the door. Wearing a gothic lowly costume, carrying an umbrella and lace fan with him, he looks exquisite like a doll, petite and cute, not so much a beauty, but rather a beautiful girl. It is most appropriate to call it a young girl, but there is a wonderful sense of majesty. She gently walked onto the podium, picked up a white chalk, and wrote the 4 words of Nangang Neiyu on the blackboard, and then turned and said, "My name is Nangang Neiyu, and I will be responsible for teaching you English from today. I am also a first year A. The head teacher of the class. If you encounter any difficulties, you can come to me." "Teacher Nangang, how old are you this year?" A male student looked suspiciously at Nangang on the podium that month. The rest of the class began to care about this issue and focused their attention on this lovely lowly. "This classmate, don't you know that asking a girl's age is a rude thing? So please stop for a class later." Nangang Neiyu had a charming smile on her face and looked at the male student who asked the question. Under her gaze, Ryusuke Nozawa felt a sense of coercion inexplicably and walked backwards involuntarily, standing obediently in the back row. Hiding the knife in the smile, this was the first impression Nangang gave him that month, and Ryusuke Nozawa secretly vowed that he would never ask about it again. "I knew a long time ago that I shouldn't be the first person to ask a question, but today I finally understand the truth about shooting the first bird, but it's too late." He glared fiercely at the secretly smiling Buddy Aso Koichi. It was this guy who encouraged him to ask questions. Neon's high school students are not the same as Tian Chao. Most of the Neon high school students are punished to stand behind the classroom when they are asked to stand by their teacher. It was a shame for him to get home. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com. The first grade class A looked at each other. This lowly class teacher, who looks like a doll, does not seem to be as easy to talk as the surface. The first class since the beginning of the school passed quickly, and the bell started to ring in less than 10 minutes. Wang Hao, watching Xiao's Haiqiu next to him, hadn't listened to the class much since the beginning of class. Instead he kept holding a notebook to write and draw. "You should be writing a novel, right? How about writing novels yourself?" When Wang Hao looked out the window, this thought flashed in his mind. When searching for information on the internet at home last night, he habitually searched Station B, but it showed that the website did not exist. He remembered what was wrong in his room, and decisively searched for some outstanding ones in the past life. The title of the work basically does not exist, but some other excellent works are replaced. There is no Naruto, no Detective Conan, no One Piece, etc., and no Magic Forbidden Book catalog. 5 centimeters per second, light novels that have set off a frenzy in previous lives, and even those that have become popular. Many excellent works in the world do not exist. The entire world's two-dimensional culture has just embarked on a journey. Wang Hao feels that it is necessary to reproduce the glory of the two-dimensional here. He took out a brand new notebook, just wanted to write, and then put down his hand. If you write the content in the notebook, don't you have to code it on the computer again when you go back? I simply took out the phone directly and created a new text, remembering the famous light novel from the previous life in my mind, and lightly typed 7 characters on the phone. Second speed of 5 centimeters began to think about the content of this novel. After thinking about it for a long time, I could only get half of it together, and couldn't memorize all the content at all. Sighed in frustration, and when he was about to give up the idea of writing a novel, the long silent book in his mind moved. I still like you now, but even if we send 1,000 text messages, our hearts cannot be close to even 1 centimeter. 5 centimeters per second is Xin Heiken's first novel adapted from an animation. This is a solo story. 3 short stories, Sakura Transcript, Astronaut, and 5 centimeters per second are combined to form a complete second speed of 5 centimeters. The world is so beautiful and youth is so gorgeous, but the protagonist in the story only wants to talk to himself. The first chapter, Sakura Transcript, describes the love mood of Koshiki and Akari when they were young, and the day they reunited. The second chapter, Astronaut, describes Sumida Hani, who has a good impression of Kashiwa who entered high school. Shows the life of Gishu and Mingli after they are separated. The third chapter, 5 centimeters per second, depicts the hesitation of Gishu and Mingli when they grow up. The plot content of 5 centimeters per second was completely integrated into Wang Hao's mind. He seemed to have experienced it in the world of Sector 5, witnessing the lives of Mingli and Gishu, and unknowingly shed a crystal teardrop. Student Wang Hao, please get up and recite the 7th paragraph. Okay. Wang Hao stretched out his hand and wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes. He spoke with a standard Japanese accent, full of emotions that he had experienced just now. The melancholy atmosphere filled the classroom. Hejun is fine, the teacher is very happy. Chinese teacher Ogura Li looked at Wang Hao with satisfaction. He never thought that a man from the Celestial Dynasty could have such a deep resonance with Kuoxu, which is really ashamed. I didn't expect Hejun to be such a sensitive person. Many girls in the class looked at Wang Hao. This kind of thoughtful boy is ideal for them, and the degree of affection in their hearts has improved a lot. Regardless of the eyes and thoughts of others, with the unfading touch of his heart, there seemed to be many tadpole-like characters in his mind, and his hands were quickly writing words under the desk. After a lesson, Wang Hao has already finished the content of the first chapter, Sakura Transcript, by 1,500 words, and there is still a long way to go before the end of the book. So a very interesting scene appeared in the first grade class A. As 2 of Kazumajaya Kashiba and Wang Hao who were at the same table, one was writing and drawing on the desk, sometimes directly sleeping on the table, and the other was at the desk. Fumbling under the desk, a teacher drew either of them to answer the questions, and they were able to answer the questions smoothly, so they had no choice but to leave it alone. In the next few days, the teachers of each subject in Class A of the first grade knew the origins of these 2 people. They both entered the Shenzaki Academy with the city's first results, so they had to give up the idea of finding problems and continuing to test the 2. As long as they don't make a lot of noise in the classroom, the teachers of each subject will open one eye and close one eye, and simply don't ask them 2 questions. After all, aren't geniuses different from ordinary people? There is a certain character for granted. Lowly class teacher Nangong spent a few days with the first grade class A classmates that month, and everyone gradually figured out the character of the class teacher, and even directly called it Nei Yuejeng, although she would use it every time she heard this name. Raising the fan and doing it directly can't stop everyone from calling her. Zayas Hikihoshiu occasionally went to class to concentrate on listening, and found Wang Hao with his head down, obviously not knowing what the other party was doing. Mr. Pervert, what are you doing? Can you show me? When Wang Hao was intoxicated in the world of 5 centimeters per second, a clear question came from beside him, pulling him out of that world. If you remove the 3 words perverted monarch, it's not that you can't tell you. Wang Hao came back to his senses and said lightly. In the past few days, he has learned about Xiaoshai's poisonous tongue and black belly level. When class is over, he seems to call himself a perverted monarch inadvertently, and immediately makes the classmates who still want to know him to back down subconsciously. It can be said that only an Yulun in the class is willing to talk to him, while the other classmates stayed away from him with guard, and even secretly discussed what Wang Hao had done. I was wrong, Hejun. Xiao Haiqiu's poetic words looked at him pitifully, full of voluptuous curves, black long and straight, only beautiful women with a quiet appearance, wearing white headbands and black stockings, with a tall figure, with two faint looks dark circles. You can see that I should have stayed up for a long time last night, which makes me feel pity. I'm writing a novel. Since the other party had already taken the initiative to admit his mistake, and looked even more pitiful, Wang Hao hesitated a bit and told her in a low voice. Will you show it to me then? Xiao Haiqiu's eyes flashed with a strange color, and continued to maintain this pitiful appearance and said softly. Recently, Xiao Haiqiu encountered a bottleneck in writing. Last night, I wrote all night. I don't know how many revisions have been made, but I still can't be satisfied. She is also writing a novel called The Metronome of Love. In fact, when the first volume of The Metronome of Love was released, there was no sign of reprinting at all, and the editor also made a 3-volume assertion. This is also the reason why she feels lost recently. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com is also a little irritable. Is she really suitable for this path of writing? Not yet. Wang Hao thought for a while, but refused Xiao Haiqiu's request. After all, he was educated by the Celestial Dynasty in his previous life, and he always thought it was wrong to read novels in class. Is that right? In Xiao Haiqiu's life, no one has refused her request since she was a child. She didn't really want to read Wang Hao's novel in her heart, but her legs shook slightly at this time. Wang Hao nodded, and then began to focus on the phone screen, and quickly coded words with both hands. This kind of code word speed that almost doesn't even use thinking, stimulated Xiao Haiqiu who encountered a bottleneck on the side, and slowly increased the speed of shaking his legs. Everyone has different subconscious habits. Although Xiao Haiqiu is still very quiet on the surface, she still exposes the fact that her heart is not calm. Is Hejun really a pervert? Seeing that you only talk to the Azai in front of you in class, is it that you are also the kind of hidden otaku? It's the kind of addicted to sniffing his sister's underwear quietly on his nose. I have been thinking about beautiful girls in my mind all day, and now he is holding disgusting thoughts but is a perverted monarch who is serious about writing ergonomic novels. You don't have to hide anything, I already know it. The reason you didn't give me your phone is because you are writing a dirty and indecent ergonomic novel. Maybe you are already caring about me. Are you really curious? What shameless work would you write? Could it be? What you are writing now is the beautiful girl who is often delusional in your mind. Or is it an ergonomic novel that you are creating based on me as a prototype? If you are based on this beautiful beauty as the prototype, you really want to know the perversion Arjun's works as perverted as I am.